Thank you for watching this Last Mile Profits video.
Is Allegro's plan to develop a stronger own network a real threat to the dominant player in Poland? If this is your thing, watch on to find out more.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadient.
Gary, if I say Allegro to you, what do you think?
Well, I either think of like a beige, particularly horrific 1970s British Leyland automobile that famously, when you changed it into reverse, the back of the car lifted up about 15 centimetres, making the rear view out of the back window even worse than it was before you tried to drive backwards. But I'm guessing you probably mean the Polish Amazon.
Well, you're pretty good, because I thought you were going to talk about music. But no, you're right. It's the Polish Amazon, but actually I'd say it's the Polish sort of more eBay-Amazon, because it's a big marketplace, dominant marketplace. I think they've got about 30% of all parcels in Poland go through that marketplace. It's really big. But the big news, and why I wanted to talk about it, Gary, is they published their results recently. And incidentally, their new CEO has just been announced. But because I don't know him personally, I won't say too much because I can't add any value there. But what was interesting, amongst the various pieces of information they released, they informed everyone that DHL is joining the, say, semi-open network that they operate. They've already got Orlen Paczka. Orlen is a big Polish petroleum company that happens to have a pretty big locker network.
Provided
They've
by
got their own... Sorry?
Provided by Kern, I believe, are the manufacturers.
Provided by Kern, I believe, as well. Also, you've got, of course, Allegro One, which is Allegro's in-house locker network. On top of that, now you'll have DHL. And I seem to recall in the article, they said that that means together they'll have about, I think it was 16,000 lockers. And just to put that in perspective, the market leader, InPost, has about 25,000.
Every time we discuss this number of InPost lockers in Poland, it seems to have trebled for some reason. So, yeah, that's a colossal number. But do you not think that this is the point, that to be credible against InPost, you've got to have a 5-digit number of lockers? And the only reasonable way to do it without bankrupting yourself is to get together with others.
Absolutely. There's no question from my perspective that partnership is the only way, because most of the others, the bigger challengers, will have 6, 7. I think the biggest in numbers of machines is DPD with, I think, about 9,000. But the thing is, their machines are very small. So if an InPost machine has got probably now about 160 plus cells or compartments per machine, and I think we did some work recently that suggested that DPD has 18 to 20 cells. You know, it's not really comparing like with like. But the issue I see, Gary, because some people got quite concerned about it. From my perspective, yes, of course, it's the way forward. But until the various networks, I would say synchronized, maybe is not the word, but they become a seamless solution.
Yeah.
It's not really, in my opinion, such a challenge. And I'll tell you why. Actually, I'm going to get a picture of one location that I've seen near me in Warsaw, where there are 5 different lockers, one next to the other. So the issue that I see is even if they get Orlen, Allegro One, DHL, and maybe someone else on board, if a large number of those lockers are actually the same location, you're not providing the customer the sort of convenience that InPost has.
No, I agree. I would argue that size doesn't matter. It's density. We've been aligned on this point for a long time now, that having a large number of locations is not about having lots of lockers. It's about being close to as many people as possible. Your magic phrase of slipper distance, getting as much density as you possibly can. And so you're getting towards the maximum convenience that's physically possible. But having 5 options that are all doing the same thing at one location doesn't really seem to be a way of driving that out. I mean, do you see actually any more kind of formal consolidation of these networks where somebody takes a leading role and you see some of them disappear?
I think at the end of the day, what will have to happen, you know, whichever way it works, is for anyone to really be able to challenge InPost, they're going to have to actually take a step back, create a genuine partnership, and create an optimized network. Because at the moment, what you've got is, for me, it's something that on paper looks good, and I think we discussed it, it's unique points. And if actually you've got 16,000 machines, but perhaps 8,000 unique locations, maybe even less, versus the 25,000, which I can promise you, based on our information, is really pretty accurate, may even be a little bit more now. I think it's going to be very difficult. So, my own take on this is, yes, of course, if I were an InPost shareholder, I would look at it carefully. But actually, I have been asked by investors, what's my take? And my take is that at the moment, it's not a major risk because you're not comparing like with like. You've not got the proximity, the density. You maybe have cells, but the cells are not necessarily where they need to be, and the networks are still not synchronized. So, that would be my take. What I think, Gary, will be interesting is to observe what happens, because I think, Poland is one of the most important locker markets. It's pretty far ahead of some of the others. And it'll be good to see what happens. Where do we go? Will we get this model, which a lot of people subscribe to, that you're going to have one dominant closed network, which in our case is InPost, and then an open network alongside, or will something else happen?
This is the point I was going to get to. Even though I've got a Polish son-in-law and a half Polish grandson who's 2 weeks old today, it is not a market that totally consumes me. But is it? When we discussed it in the past, we've almost regarded it as like a glimpse into the future of, this is what Lockerland eventually looks like, and this is where other markets will eventually mature to be like. I'm starting to think that maybe other markets won't mature to be quite like Poland. I think there are lessons to be learned from it, but I think there's going to be some divergence here. I don't think this ultra dominant InPost is going to be present in all markets. I think they're going to do well in quite a few, but I don't see this as being the kind of template for all markets' future for lockers. I think there'll be some change.
Well, look, let's observe with interest whether Lockerland will be replicated elsewhere. Gary, always great talking. I also need to eat humble pie today, and I'll do it publicly because in fact, yesterday was your birthday. And I will eat humble pie and apologize for forgetting it. Actually, I'm not sure I knew about it, so I'm a little bit covered. But anyway, happy birthday. To be quite topical, I'll share Gary's age, which is 21 plus tariffs. You can work out which tariffs I'm thinking about. Gary, great talking as usual.
Thanks very much. See you soon.